It's been a red day in the market, very red actually. Look at Bitcoin there. Normally, when you see those green dots at the bottom, it means it's about to go up or it should be going up, but that's not what we're seeing right now. This is the hourly chart. As you can see, we're down in the 97,000 range. We're back into the volume area since yesterday. We've crossed over the point of control, the purple line there, on our way down towards the um, volume area, the low. I don't know if we're going to go to the low or not. I think we're starting to see a turnaround. Interesting when you start seeing X's like that on the screen, especially several of them. Um, Market Cipher claims that these X's are, if I understand it correctly, represents manipulation. What's interesting about these X's is that we look at some of the other coins in the market. Let's go to XRP. You're going to see an XRP. There's four of these X's on the chart, and that's what Market Cipher typically says is the indicator to start looking for a turnaround, good turnaround. And it looks like it is turning around. We're up a good amount. The other thing I like to look at here, and we'll move on to another indicator here in a second, is these numbers. These numbers tell me a lot about what's going on. The way Market Cipher describes it is the bottom number is the bull number, and the top number is the bear number. The numbers range from -5 to +28, if I remember correctly. And I look at them a little bit differently, but my viewpoint is essentially the same thing. I repackage it to something that computes for me a lot better. I look at it as resistance. Um, one of my let's move this back over to Bitcoin so that we're looking at the same thing. Mm, And let's stretch this out. Now, when you're looking at these and you're looking at resistance, you see you've got more resistance on the upside on these than you do on the downside. Mm, And right now, we're starting to even out. We're starting to see a little bit of a slowdown. But now, my favorite thing to look at here is this liquidation chart. And I don't see no vehicle on shoulder ahead. Uh, who knows? This thing talks to it. Okay, anyway, so you look at all that energy on there, and you can use this liquidation map to see where the market's going to go. Now, there's energy down low from us, but we're starting to run out of energy on the downside. And the market seeks out energy, or the market manipulator or the market makers seek out energy to keep the market moving. Now, there is one more range down to that 90, what is that, 90, 92, 5 range, where it could pick up a lot more energy. Let's just see. I want to see if that corresponds. That's relatively close to that volume area low that we're looking at on the volume profile there. So it- it's possible it could go ahead and go down there, but you're seeing the energy or the resistance. The way I view it is resistance. There's a higher resistance to go down of 8, which is not super strong, than the one to go up. Now we are, I don't know, a half hour from the close. Yeah, we're about a half hour from the close of that candle. So that candle's just telling you where we're kind of actively at. We can change the time frame, of course, and go down to 15 minutes and see what our 15-minute resistance looks like. Oh yeah, see on our 15-minute, we got a 23 and a, is that a -5 or a 5? I can't really tell, mainly because I'm driving and I'm not being able to focus on it like I would if I was sitting at a computer screen. But yeah, on the 15-minute, it looks like it's going to turn around. You got double green dots on the 15-minute. You got the momentum is starting to shift up. Let's go down to a little bit lower time frame and see what we got there. Uh, let's go down to the 5-minute. The 5-minute time frame. Oh yeah, you see the momentum down here. Let's see if I can get across there. You see the momentum where the VWAP and the momentum has crossed over now. We're starting to move up on the 5-minute. it's a good sign that we're about to start seeing a rebound, possibly. It's very low time frame. On the 15 minute though, we're seeing something similar on the 15 minute. Although we don't see the momentum crossing over yet, but if on the you can see here the momentum is definitely shifting. The VWAP is up. Mm, Money flow is still way in the red. We go to the 15 minute, the VWAP is up. We're starting to see a shift of momentum. Money flow is still in the red. Let's go to 30 minutes. 30 minutes, in 26 minutes, we may print a green dot. If that green dot prints and all these numbers stay the same, we may be seeing a shift in the market here on Bitcoin, which corresponds with, there's more energy to the upside. Now, do I think we'll go back up to an all-time high after this? I do not. I think there is some rockiness in the market. I think we will go potentially up and clear that 102.5. We may go to 103 or 104 before turning back around, and staying in this area. And partially because with these charts, we're seeing the story in the charts, but without knowing the news, we don't know what's driving this. And there's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now because of tariffs that just got started with Canada, Mexico, and China as of yesterday. This could trigger a trade war. I foresee them being the Mexico and Canada ones, which are the ones that would affect us the most. Uh, I see those being short-lived. I see Mexico and Canada themselves starting a process of figuring out how to work with the U.S. to solve the problems that are leading to these tariffs, and then going back to something much lower. I do think that once this is determined, there will still be a tariff on these countries. I think we're going to start on this 25% we're at right now. Trump's going to get some concessions from them, and he'll drop it down to like 10%. So I think he is ultimately after installing tariffs on every country in the world for the purpose of bringing in more revenue. And yes, that still ultimately kind of comes out of the Americans' pockets, but let's think about this. Let's pick a product, maple syrup. I'm only picking maple syrup, and I'm going to make up prices for the illustration. I'm picking it for something that can. No, what I'm going to make up is pretty crazy. So let's let's pick up a different product. Let's let's go with pencils. Let's do pencils. Now, we can get pencils made here in the US and they cost 99 cents a pencil to make. But China will make that same pencil for 15 cents a piece. Canada will make that same pencil for 50 cents a piece. Well, it's a pencil. Who cares who makes it, right? Well, if Trump put a 100% tariff on China, it would take it from 15 cents would have cost them to make it. Let's say they're charging 30 cents. He puts a 100% tariff on it. That takes that pencil to 60 cents. Well, if the American pencil is selling for 115 because it costs them 99 cents to make, um, all that China's going to do is raise the price of that pencil. Now, Canada, on the other hand, it's costing them 50 cents to make that pencil. If they get a 100% tariff, that's going to take their price per pencil up to $1. Again, they're probably just going to raise the price of the pencil, and that's going to cost directly on the consumer. But now let's shift the numbers a little bit to make the numbers a little bit tighter, like some other product. And I don't think the pencil illustration is great, but it does it. So we did a pencil. Let's do pens. So in the exact same scenario, the American company can make the pen for 99 cents. So they make pencils and pens 99 cents each. They sell them for 115. China can make pencils for 15 cents, but it costs them 75 cents to make a pen. Well, If they get a 100% tariff, that takes that pen to $1.50. They're no longer competitive with the American company that sell them at 115. So what they've got to do is eat part of the tariff themselves, and it brings that cost of that pen right up to 115 where the American company is selling it. Because if they tried to sell it for 150, they're not going to sell any. And so up to a point, the tariffs are being paid by the Americans. But once that price gets up to the same price of the same product being made in the US, then the companies have to make a decision. Do we continue to raise the price beyond what the competitors are now because we've sold all this time because our price was so much more competitive? Or do we drop our profit margin such that we can be competitive? And ultimately, they're going to drop their profit margin, which means only a portion of the tariff will be paid by the Americans. The other portion will be paid out of the profits of that foreign company. Now, realistically, if it's costing them 75 cents to make and they've got a 75-cent tariff, they're not going to be able to drop it all the way to 115. They may be able to drop it to 125. So they're still going to be 10 cents more expensive. And that's good for the American company because when you go to the store to buy your pen, it's going to be cheaper to buy the American one, which that helps American jobs, that helps stimulate our growth of our economy. And that is what he's ultimately after. It's either grow the economy to where we are, our tax basis is covering the government spending, or bring in some additional revenue from these foreign companies that have been basically living off of our money for so long. And what I mean by that is, does it make sense that if you made something, anything, you make cakes, you make birthday cakes, and you go to the store, and when you sell your birthday cakes have taxes on them. But your next door neighbor also makes birthday cakes sold at the same store. But when people buy your next door neighbor's cakes, there's no taxes. And that is essentially what's happening. You, in that analogy, is America, and your next door neighbor is Canada or Mexico. And so when they're selling goods into the US for no taxes, but we're selling our goods for taxes, and I don't think we actually have a tax going into Canada and Mexico. I think NAFTA or whatever it's called now uh, eliminated that. But that's basically the theory. A lot of these countries are stifling American products in their country by adding a tariff on it. And they may call it something else, but it's a tariff. And while having lower taxes on their own goods, it's only fair that we do the same. If Germany wants to bring cars to the US, we put the same tax on German cars that come to the US that American cars have in Germany. And if that's 50%, so be it. I mean, I want me an Audi, and I think that's a German car, and I or it's at least a European car. But at the end of the day, I don't have one. But at the end of the day, if the market conditions there is such that American cars can't be sold there because the taxes are too high on them, but the European cars don't have that same penalty here, that's not fair trade. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. This could be a trade war that's getting started, but it's definitely has the potential to improve economic the economy in the US. It also has the potential to go the other way. So I just explained the positive case. Now, what's the negative case on this? And this is we've got to be wary and at least have somebody that's running the show in the White House that, is paying attention to everything, not just one indicator. And while I think there is some good with Trump, there is some bad with Trump. Um, Economic indicators, like especially interest rates, I do think that if anybody that has ever been in the White House understood interest rates, it's going to be Trump. His entire business was built on interest rates because he was constantly taking loans for property, and those interest rates directly affect those purchases. So, but you got to pay attention to other economic indicators. I'm hoping he is, or at least he has some good advisors that are doing so, because you have these other countries like the BRICS nations that are like, well, so be it. We're just going to get out of the dollar. And that could be a bad thing if they decide, all these BRICS nations decide they're going to make the BRICS currency and they're going to back it by gold. Well, that's a dramatic, that'll hurt the US dramatically. And so we've got to pay attention to that. And I hope he is, because he doesn't want to put so much pressure on them that they go elsewhere. Because that's what Joe Biden did. That's exactly why the Russian rupee had dropped initially when the war started with Ukraine, but it's recovered. Their economy's doing good. All of our trade embargoes and all that stuff that we did, all we did was push them closer to China and Iran, which Iran and Russia were already pretty close. So we did was strengthen the BRICS nations, or strengthen the relationship with the BRICS nations, versus what we should have done has been trying to drive those two countries to some sort of peace, even if it's a peace that we didn't like. At the end of the day, saving lives is much more important than real estate, especially considering that a large portion of the territory taken by Ukraine, or taken by Russia, from my understanding, now I'm gonna caveat this based off of my understanding of the region and the politics in the region, from people much smarter on the regions than I am. I have a friend who is actually an expert in that region, and she's the one who was telling me that a large portion of that region that has been taken by Russia is Russian speaking, Russian descendants, and a lot of them want to be part of Russia. So from their point of view, part of the population may see Russia as a liberation, whereas the other part of the population in that same area may see it as an invasion. Um, at the end of the day, it may be better for that portion of the country to be Russia. I don't know, but what I do know is constantly sending people into the meat grinder of war is never good. And that's what's happened. I don't know how many people have died there. I've heard estimates upwards of 1 million people have died fighting a war of attrition, because both those countries are just, the battle lines have basically been fermented for the past 2 years. I mean, I think Russia got what they wanted in the first 90 days and has just been defending it ever since. And if from what my research is accurate, that's not a good place to be. So I kind of got off track there on a tangent, but that's what these car talks are for. Um, so back on point, we've got to be careful and we got to pay very close attention to what's going to happen over the next week. I think there's going to be a bloodbath in the stock market tomorrow. We'll get a good grasp on that this evening when the Asian markets open for the week. But I do think we're going to see a massive sell off around the world, and maybe I'm wrong, and I think the Bitcoin sell off over this weekend has been kind of call it a warning sign of what's to come. Bitcoin right now is down $10,000 from its all-time high, whereas some other cryptos, y'all know I'm a big XRP person. XRP was down XRP was, look at that. bounce. Let's see if it can hold that bounce. That's a good one. Um, Momentum's going up, everything's going up. Wow, that's a candle there. Look at that green dot. Yeah, that's moving. I like that. Anyways, the let's move that up to the hour. See what we got on that hour time frame. Man, that's a big old candle. We got a 17. 17 is good. I like anything over a 15. Green dot, if that green dot closes in 12 minutes, I may jump in pretty deep on that trade. Anyways, well, that's all I've got for now. I'll probably jump on here once or twice more, depending on how the markets shake out as I'm driving here. I'm in the truck for another couple hours. Um, yeah, it looks like I'm in the truck for the next 3 to 4 hours, so I'll have plenty of time to hop back on and see where we're going.